Care to comment, or Mr. Sawyer? Or Mr. Jordan, please.
Peter Jorrens, Conservation Commission. To answer the first question, out of our 700 or 695 acres, 491 are under the self-help reimbursement. This presents better than 70%, I would say. As far as the eminent domain, this is not really necessary because we have purchased the land. This article is only an approval of our action, and the eminent domain is only used to clear the title if we choose to do so. Peter Jorrens, Conservation Commission. In order to avoid as much confusion as possible and to enable you to make an objective decision, I will limit myself to give you facts about our revised master plan and past land acquisitions and performance. Since our first purchase of land in 1966, 14 acres for $4,500 or $320 per acre, the Conservation Commission has acquired for the town a total of 480 acres, including our last purchase of approximately 44 acres in the Grassy Pond area for $1,500 an acre. To this we have to add 143 acres of committed land purchases and 71 acres of town forest to bring the total of open space to 695 acres. Some boards in town may argue that the town really owns quite a bit more land, which of course is true. But this land is not general purpose land every citizen in town can use. For example, the municipal and regional school land, water district land, cemeteries, and general municipal land are land holdings by the town for specific functions. The land we have acquired so far is being put to more and more uses. The Spring Hill Conservation Area, 180 acres, can be used for hiking and cross-country skiing, horseback riding, etc. The Recreation Commission started to cut hiking and ski trails through the 105-acre Great Hill Conservation Recreation Area. The Great Hill will have a picnic area and unimproved play fields, in other words, level fields, in the immediate future, and maybe tennis courts and even a ski slope in the more distant future. I'm echoing here the plans of the Recreation Commission. We are not directly involved in these recreational developments. We only acquire the land, but if the Recreation Commission needs a particular parcel or area and has an acceptable plan, we let them develop it. This is what conservation is all about. Some land is suitable for active or passive recreation. Some land is needed for the protection of our water supply, and some land serves to regulate groundwater runoff. I will say more about the merits of conservation land later on, but let me first go over our master plan. I hope that all of you had a chance to look at our revised master plan. I must first apologize that it was sent to you minutes before this town meeting. The delay was technical and not political in nature. Everything always takes a little longer than anticipated, and we had originally planned to finish this in early April. Well, we're only a month late. I owe you another apology for the errors in the conservation map. The proposed first and second priority land acquisition color codes were reversed in the printing process, and some of the town-owned land was not marked correctly. I hope everybody present here tonight picked up a corrected copy of this map at the door. The print is supplied to us at no cost. The 1974 master plan is basically a revision of the original one in 1966. The major difference is the deletion of most of the floodplain from the planned acquisitions. We made a detailed study of the Fort Pond Brook and Ashoba Brook floodplains and determined that too many owners would be involved in the transaction of small parcels of land. Too many house lots would become non-conforming if we purchased the parts lying in the floodplain. The cost to the town would be much too high, And finally, the floodplain is protected by a town bylaw. You can find a detailed analysis of this near the end in our master plan. The land we propose to buy in the near future has been divided into first and second priorities at the request of the Board of Selectmen. The Conservation Commission feels that the 173 acres of land of first priority should be bought as soon as possible because they may not be available much longer. There are about 460 acres in the second priority, of which about 60% are available today. The remaining 40% would require more time and effort to acquire, but this is definitely possible. It is easy to figure out that if we bought all this land today at today's prices, we would need over $1 million. But whoever is familiar with real estate transactions knows that not every land negotiation will be completed successfully, even if the land is available. Real estate deals are unpredictable to a certain degree. The breakdown of the proposed land acquisition is as follows. First priority, 45 acres in the Spring Hill area, 72 acres in West Acton, 56 acres in South Acton, total 173 acres. The second priority, 240 acres in East Acton, 82 acres in North Acton, 72 acres in West Acton, 38 acres in South Acton, and 27 acres in Acton Center. Total 459 acres. How did we arrive at this acreage in these particular parcels? We surveyed the town for available land which would fit in our master plan, then trimmed the acreage down to around 630 acres. Every part in town will have a fair share of conservation recreational land. We would like to enlarge the Spring Hill Conservation Recreation Area from the present 180 acres to a total of approximately 450 acres because it is one of the last strongholds nature still has in Acton, and because this area supplies a substantial amount of water to Nashoba Brook. Why do we want to buy more land for conservation and recreation, you may ask? There are many reasons, and I'm only going to talk briefly about a few. First, we all need a balanced environment. Not only are good schools necessary for the normal development of our children, but a balanced environment as well. Let me give you an example for each of the possible extremes. If you have ever taken a taxi ride from LaGuardia Airport to the Coliseum in New York City, you have seen the terrible condition people have to put up with. People are crammed by the hundreds in big housing units. Children can play on filthy streets or in fenced-in concrete playgrounds. The whole setup looks more like an overcrowded zoo than a habitat fit for humans. The other extreme can be found in some remote areas in Maine, where nature is pretty much untouched, but where children live a rather isolated lives. Conservation land has many ecological functions. It maintains a high water table which ensures the town an ample drinking water supply of good quality. It regulates stormwater runoff, thus avoiding flooding. It provides cleaner air, a quieter environment, food and shelter for the little wildlife we have left in this town. It is aesthetically pleasing and will be of value for many generations to come. We have an ideal setting here in Acton. We have plenty of stores, good services, and a good school system. We are only 45 minutes away from downtown Boston, with its many universities, sports arenas, and other recreational facilities, shopping facilities, only to name a few. I'm sure that most residents of Acton do not have to commute too far to work. Acton looks attractive to many people. The anticipated population of this town in 1980 is around 30,000. In buying conservation land now, we can all contribute to the orderly development of the town. Densely populated areas should alternate with open spaces. We should preserve the rural character of the town as much as possible. Acquiring conservation land will preserve some of the aspects of the town we liked when we moved here. And I say we moved here because the population has increased so drastically that a lot of us have moved to this town and were not born here. The land we propose to buy for the town will be used for conservation and for recreation. Recreation, when well planned, is not detrimental to nature, but rather in harmony with it. Some of our preliminary ideas about recreational developments can be found in the master plan. Another reason why buying land for conservation is advantageous to the citizen is the impact on the tax rate. The Finance Committee made a study of the cost to the town if all the land we want to buy for conservation is developed. This means all the land which can be developed is developed at the present time. The increase today would amount to $3 per thousand per year and subject to future inflation. We are asking you for less than $1 per thousand per year to implement our master plan. The total saving, therefore, is at least $2 per thousand per year. The implementation of the master plan can be compared to starting a business. It takes a certain amount of capital to start, but if it is well managed, it will return handsome dividends in the future. If the Conservation Commission obtains the requested funds, namely the $600,000 bond and $100,000 from Article 41 in the regular town meeting, the land acquisition can be completed within the next 2 to 3 years. We will apply for state help reimbursement of 50% or Federal Bureau of Outdoor Recreation reimbursement for 50%. Self-help reimbursement looks good for the next year. The Department of Natural Resources is trying to get $7.5 million in early July. By law, any money received from federal and state agencies as a partial reimbursement for the purchase of conservation land must be used to reduce our borrowing. This will further reduce the impact on the tax rate. BOR reimbursements is not as easy to predict. This agency requires a detailed plan for recreation conservation and a good reason why a town is in need of such a project. In summary, the Conservation Commission is deeply concerned about what is going to happen to the town in the next decade and beyond. We want to keep Acton as a pleasure to live in for this and future generations. Have you ever considered that residents of Acton 100 years from now, when all of us have departed, may have high praise for your foresight in preserving some of the green areas? The Conservation Commission believes strongly that acquisition of land is absolutely necessary, but the final decision is yours, the voters. Thank you.